There are truths so heavy they can break a person's spirit, and young Adana carried such a truth as she knelt in the village square with her hands tied behind her back. The entire village of Amana had gathered to watch her punishment, men, women, children, all standing in judgment of the girl who dared speak against their savior. Chief Okonkwo stood before her, his face carved from stone and certainty. Elder Nkem read her crime aloud for all to hear. Adana has spread wicked lies about Mama Blessing, the woman who saved us all from death. She has shown no respect and no gratitude. For this, she will be banished from our village forever. The crowd roared their approval like thunder before a storm. Some spat on the ground near her feet. Adana searched the faces for her father, Ikenna, but he sat silent and weak, too sick to defend his only daughter. Guards grabbed her arms, rough hands on tender skin, and dragged her toward the boundary stones that marked the edge of their land. As her feet crossed that ancient line, she whispered words meant for no one but herself. If only you knew. The boundary stones began to glow with a faint light that no one else seemed to notice. Something had been waiting for this moment. Something in the darkness beyond their village had been waiting, patient as the growing of trees, for young Adana. If you're watching this video, please like, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching my folktale story from. I want to know how far it has traveled. Let me take you back 3 years, to when this darkness first cast its shadow over Amana. The village was dying, not quickly like a chicken with its throat cut, but slowly, like a plant denied water. A terrible fever swept through their homes like wildfire through dry grass. It took their children first, the little ones with bright eyes and quick laughter. Then it claimed the elders, those who carried the stories and wisdom of generations. The healthy became sick between one sunrise and the next. The sick died within days, their bodies burning with fever that no cooling cloth could ease. Adana was only 14 summers old then, still more girl than woman. She watched her father weep over the graves of children he had blessed at birth. The village medicine man burned herbs and made offerings to the ancestors, but the sky remained silent as a locked mouth. Their prayers went unanswered, bouncing back like stones thrown against a cliff. Fear lived in every home like an unwanted guest. Mothers refused to let their children play outside. Fathers dug graves in advance, knowing death would visit soon enough. The chief called a meeting and told them the truth they already knew in their hearts. Their village was dying, and no one, not the healers, not the priests, not even the ancestors, could stop it. That night, Adana heard women crying in their homes. She heard men asking the gods why they had been abandoned, what sin they had committed to deserve such punishment. They were a village on the edge of extinction, watching helplessly as death claimed them one by one like a farmer harvesting grain. Then, just when all hope had dried up like water in a cracked pot, something happened. At dawn, a stranger arrived at their village gates. She was a woman dressed in white, carrying a simple clay pot. Her voice was gentle as morning dew. She called herself Mama Blessing. Mama Blessing moved through their village like an angel sent from the gods themselves. She went from hut to hut, kneeling beside the sick with infinite patience. She gave them water from her clay pot, water that was dark, almost black, like liquid night itself. The water looked wrong, tasted strange, but she promised it would heal. And oh, my children, the impossible happened. Within hours, fevers broke like storms passing. The dying opened their eyes and asked where they were. Children sat up and asked for food with voices that had been silent for days. Within 3 days, the plague was gone, completely gone, as if it had never existed. The sick rose from their mats and walked. Families wept with joy and gratitude, holding each other tight. Their village, which had been preparing for death, was suddenly, miraculously alive again. Chief Okonkwo declared a great feast in Mama Blessing's honor. He offered her a home, a place of highest respect, anything her heart desired. She smiled gently, such a gentle smile, and said she wanted nothing but to serve their village. Adana's father, who had been among the sick, stood before Mama Blessing with tears streaming down his weathered face. He thanked her for saving his life, called her a blessing from the gods. Everyone agreed, their voices rising in praise like birds at dawn. The entire village celebrated for days. Music filled the air. People danced until their feet ached. They feasted on roasted meat and fresh yams. But young Adana stood at a distance, watching. Something felt wrong, though she could not name it. She watched Mama Blessing closely as she moved through the crowd, accepting thanks and blessings with that gentle, patient smile. That's when she saw it, something that made her blood run cold. Mama Blessing's shadow didn't move when she did. Now, let me tell you something about Adana that explains much of what follows. She carried a gift, a burden, really, that she had never told anyone about except her father. Her mother had passed it to her before dying in childbirth, as such gifts often travel through blood and bone. It was called the sight. She could see things that others could not. She saw spirits walking beside living people, invisible companions that whispered in their ears. She heard voices from the world beyond our own. She felt presences that moved between the shadows like fish swimming through dark water. When she was younger and foolish with the honesty of children, she told her father about the things she saw. His face had filled with fear, not for himself, but for her. He made her promise never to speak of it again. People fear what they cannot understand, my daughter, he told her, gripping her small hands. They would call you cursed or possessed. They would drive you out or worse. So Adana learned to hide her gift, to pretend she was like everyone else. She learned to look away when spirits passed, to ignore the whispers that tickled her ears, to act as if the veil between worlds was solid and unbroken. But the sight does not stop just because we ignore it, my children. It shows us truth whether we want to see it or not. And now, Adana's sight was screaming at her like a child in danger. When she looked at Mama Blessing, she didn't see a holy woman sent from the gods. She saw something else entirely, something wearing human skin like a borrowed coat, something that didn't fit quite right. That night, Adana dreamed of her mother for the first time in years. She had never met her mother, you understand, the woman had died the very day Adana was born. But somehow, in that dream place where souls recognize souls, she knew who this was. Her mother stood in darkness, her face pale as moonlight, her eyes hollow and empty as abandoned wells. She didn't speak, couldn't speak, perhaps, but her lips moved, forming a single word over and over again. Run. Months passed like water flowing downstream, and Mama Blessing became more than just their healer. She became the beating heart of Amana, the center around which everything revolved. Chief Okonkwo sought her advice on every decision, great and small. When neighbors argued over land boundaries, they brought their disputes to her. When young couples wanted to marry, they sought her blessing first, even before the elders. People brought her gifts, the best yams from their fields, fine cloth woven with intricate patterns, chickens and goats. They built her a larger hut near the village center, decorated it with care and love. Children followed her through the streets like ducklings following their mother, singing songs about the woman who saved them all. Mama Blessing smiled at everyone. She spoke words of kindness and wisdom that made people's hearts feel light. She was perfect in every way. But Adana noticed something that made her blood run cold as river water in the rainy season. The people closest to Mama Blessing were changing. Subtly at first, so subtly that no one else seemed to notice. They smiled more than before, but their laughter sounded empty, like echoes in a hollow pot. Their eyes looked bright, but there was nothing behind them, no depth, no soul, just surfaces reflecting back whatever you wanted to see. Her best friend Kayamaka spent a whole week helping Mama Blessing prepare medicines and blessings. When she returned, Adana ran to greet her, singing their favorite childhood song, the one they had sung together 1,000 times since they were small enough to hide under their mother's skirts. But Kayamaka just stared at her with a confused smile, as if Adana were speaking in a foreign tongue. She didn't recognize the song. She didn't remember it at all. That's when Adana knew, deep in her bones, that something terrible was happening to her village. Young Adana began to investigate quietly, moving like a shadow, careful not to draw attention to herself. She spoke to the children who had been healed by Mama Blessing's black water. She asked them simple questions about their sleep, their dreams, the things they saw when they closed their eyes. One by one, they told her the same strange thing. They no longer dreamed at night. A little boy named Chitty said, "I close my eyes and then I open them, and it's morning. Nothing happens in between. It's like I fall into a deep hole and climb out again." A girl named Obioma said, "My grandmother used to visit me in dreams and tell me stories about when she was young. But I haven't seen her since I drank the medicine." The night is just empty now." Their parents smiled when they heard this, pleased as if their children had won a prize. They said it was wonderful that their children slept so peacefully now, with no nightmares to disturb them, no night terrors to make them cry out. But Adana knew better. Dreams are sacred, my children. Dreams are how our ancestors speak to us, how they guide us through the dark places, how they warn us of dangers we cannot see with waking eyes. A child without dreams is a child cut off from the spirit world, alone in a way that should never be. She tried to tell her father what she had discovered. She sat beside him one evening as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Carefully, gently, she explained what the children had told her. She said she was worried about Mama Blessing and the changes happening in their village. Her father looked at her with kind eyes, the same eyes that had watched over her all her life, and patted her hand gently. "Adana, my daughter, Mama Blessing saved my life. She saved all our lives. Don't disrespect her with superstition and old fears. You sound like the frightened child you once were, seeing shadows where there are none." His words hurt more than a slap would have. The forgetting spread through their village like a silent sickness, invisible but devastating. Adana watched it happen, powerless to stop it, and she was the only one who seemed to notice. Families who invited Mama Blessing to dinner in their homes began losing their memories afterward. Small things disappeared first, things so small you might not notice unless you were looking carefully. Old recipes passed down from grandmothers to mothers to daughters were suddenly forgotten, the knowledge vanishing like smoke. The names of great-grandparents, those who had built the village and cleared the land, vanished from people's minds as if they had never existed. The village blacksmith, a man named Obed who had worked iron since he was a boy, had learned his craft from his father, who learned from his father before him. The knowledge ran in their blood like a river through the land. One day, Adana watched him stare at his tools as if seeing them for the first time. His hands hovered over the hammers and tongs, uncertain. He couldn't remember how his father had taught him to forge iron, couldn't recall the secret techniques passed down through generations. The knowledge was simply gone, leaving him confused and diminished. Their village drummer, who had played the ceremonial rhythms for every festival since before Adana was born, sat confused at the next celebration. His hands moved over the drums, but the old patterns, those sacred rhythms that connected them to their ancestors, were lost. He played new rhythms instead, rhythms that meant nothing, that carried no history, no power, no voice from the past. Adana went to Kayamika's house and asked to speak with her friend's grandmother, the old woman who had raised Kayamika's mother and told the best stories in the village, stories that made you laugh and cry and think all at once. Kayamika looked at her with empty eyes, as blank as a freshly plastered wall. "I don't have a grandmother," she said simply. But she did. Adana remembered the old woman clearly. She had sat in that woman's compound many times, listening to her tales of the old days, of heroes and tricksters and wise women who outwitted kings. The woman had existed. But now she was being erased, forgotten, as if she had never lived at all. At the edge of Amana stands the Irako forest. For as long as memory reaches back, and in Africa, my children, memory reaches back very far indeed, that forest has been forbidden. No birds sing in its trees. No animals make their homes beneath its branches. Hunters who venture too close return shaken and silent, refusing to speak of what they felt or saw. The elders warn children to stay away with stern voices and serious faces, though curiously, no one speaks of why. The forest has always been silent, dead, and still, a place where life refuses to grow. But now, something was changing. Villagers began reporting strange sounds at night. Whispers seemed to drift from between the trees like smoke from a dying fire. Some people claimed they heard voices calling their names, voices of loved ones long dead, beckoning them to come closer. Hunters refused to go anywhere near the forest boundary, even in daylight, even in groups. Adana felt a pull toward that forest that she couldn't explain or resist. At night, lying on her mat while her father snored softly nearby, she would feel something tugging at her spirit, calling her to come closer. The feeling grew stronger each day, like a rope tied around her heart, drawing her toward the darkness between those ancient trees. One night, she couldn't sleep. The calling was too strong, too insistent. She rose from her mat while her father slept the deep sleep of the sick and weary. She crept through the silent village like a ghost, her bare feet making no sound on the packed earth. She walked to the edge of the Irako forest and stood at the boundary, staring into the darkness between the trees. That's when she heard it clearly, not a whisper anymore, but a voice she somehow recognized despite never having heard it before. Her mother's voice, singing the lullaby her father said she used to sing before Adana was born. She should have turned back. Any sensible person would have turned back. But when have hearts ever been sensible, my children? Her mother's voice drew her forward into the forest like a fish caught on a hook, unable to resist even though it knows danger waits. She moved between the trees, her heart pounding like drums at a ceremony, her hands shaking like leaves in wind. The darkness was thick enough to taste, but somehow she could see well enough to walk. The whispers grew louder all around her, not threatening, but curious, as if the forest itself was wondering what this girl dared to do. Then she saw her. She stood at the boundary staring into darkness. That's when she heard it clearly, her mother's voice singing the lullaby her father said she used to sing. She should have turned back. But her mother's voice drew her forward like a fish on a hook. She moved between the trees, heart pounding, hands shaking. The darkness was thick but somehow she could see. Whispers grew louder around her. Then she saw Mama Blessing standing before the largest Irako tree, body rigid and still. Her shadow stretched impossibly long in the moonlight. And as Adana watched in horror, the shadow moved, writhing like black smoke, separate from her body. Mama Blessing spoke in harsh, ancient words that hurt to hear. The great tree responded. Its bark split open revealing dozens of glowing yellow eyes. The eyes focused on Mama Blessing. She bowed low before it. Adana must have made a sound. Suddenly Mama Blessing's head snapped toward her. But it didn't turn naturally. Her neck rotated too far, all the way around like an owl's, bones cracking. For one terrible moment, her face wasn't a face at all. It was a wooden mask with a smile carved too wide, with holes where eyes should be. Then it shifted back to normal. "You should not have come here, child," she said softly, as if scolding a wayward student. Adana ran. She crashed through the forest, branches tearing at her clothes and skin. She ran until her lungs burned, until her legs shook, and didn't stop until she reached her father's hut. She burst through the door and fell at his feet, gasping. Through sobs, she told him everything, the moving shadow, the tree with eyes, the wooden mask wearing human features. She begged him to believe her. Her father's face filled with horror, but not the kind she needed. He was horrified at her, at what she was saying. He grabbed her shoulders and shook her. "Stop this madness. Mama Blessing saved us, saved me. You speak lies from jealousy and sickness." Desperate, Adana went to Eldon Kim the next morning, then to Chief Okonkwo. She tried warning anyone who'd listen. But no one believed her. They called her troubled, jealous of Mama Blessing's attention. Some whispered she was possessed. That evening, Mama Blessing came to their hut. She brought a clay cup filled with black water, said it was medicine for Adana's troubled mind. Her father urged her to drink. But Adana refused. Mama Blessing's smile never wavered. "You are your mother's daughter," she said quietly. "That makes you very special indeed." The next morning, Adana's father collapsed in his field. His skin turned gray. His eyes became distant and glassy. The healers had no answers. They said it looked like the fever from 3 years ago, but this time only affecting him. Mama Blessing visited daily, bringing black water and herbs. At first, he seemed to improve. But Adana noticed something worse than fever. He began forgetting things. One evening she mentioned her mother's name, Nina. He looked blank. "Who is Nina?" Her heart cracked. "Your wife, Papa. My mother." He shook his head slowly. "I don't remember anyone by that name." Days passed. He forgot what his wife looked like, the sound of her voice. Then most terribly, he forgot he'd ever been married. When Adana showed him the cloth bracelet her mother made, he stared at it like a stranger's possession. One night, he grabbed her wrist with sudden strength. His eyes cleared briefly. "Your mother. She's not dead. She's trapped. Don't let him, his eyes rolled back and he collapsed. He never finished the warning. Adana searched her mother's belongings in a locked wooden box. Beneath old clothes and dried flowers, she found folded bark paper. On it was a map showing a path through the Irako forest to a shrine deep in the woods. Her father once told her mother had been a priestess before Adana was born, serving at a sacred shrine. But the elders had banned it years ago, saying it was too dangerous. The map felt warm in her hands, almost alive. She knew she had to go there, had to find answers. But as she prepared to leave before dawn, she heard shouting outside. Elden Kim arrived with 4 guards. Someone had reported her, saying she still spread lies about Mama Blessing. "You'll stand trial before the council at sunset," Elden Kim announced. They posted guards at her door to ensure she didn't run. The entire village gathered at sunset. Adana was brought before the elders with hands bound. Chief Okonkwo sat stern and unmoved. Mama Blessing stood to the side, watching with calm eyes. Adana presented everything she'd discovered, children who no longer dreamed, forgotten memories, lost traditions, what she saw in the forest. The crowd murmured, but not with belief. They murmured with anger. How dare she accuse their savior? Elden Kim asked Mama Blessing to respond. She stepped forward gracefully. "I don't deny Adana saw something. But I fear the poor child is sick in her mind. Grief for her dead mother has twisted her thoughts. She needs healing, not punishment. I feel only pity for her." The elders nodded. The crowd agreed. Chief Okonkwo stood and declared judgment. "Adana, you are declared an enemy of this village. You will leave immediately and never return. If you cross our boundary again, you'll be killed." As guards dragged her away, Mama Blessing leaned close and whispered, "Your mother made a deal she couldn't keep. Now you'll pay her debt." They threw her beyond the boundary stones with nothing, no food, water, or knife. The guards warned her one final time, "Return and die." Then they left her alone as darkness fell. Adana collapsed on the ground and wept. She'd lost everything, home, father, village. No one believed her. No one would help. She was alone in the forest with night coming and dangerous spirits circling. The forest came alive with sounds, rustling, footsteps that weren't human, whispers in unknown languages. She felt presences circling her in darkness, drawn by her sight, curious about this girl who could see them. She closed her eyes and prayed to her mother, to the ancestors, to anyone who might hear. "Please. I don't know what to do. Please help me." A light appeared in darkness. She opened her eyes and saw a glowing figure standing before her. As it came closer, she saw the woman's features clearly. She looked exactly like Adana, same eyes, same face, same marking on her left shoulder. But older. The spirit knelt beside her and touched her cheek with a hand both solid and ghostly. "Hello, daughter. We have much to discuss." The spirit was her mother, Nina, though not entirely the mother she should have known. She glowed faintly, and Adana could see trees through her body. She was caught between worlds, neither fully alive nor dead. Nina told her story. 17 years ago, pregnant with her first child, the birth went terribly wrong. She was dying, and the baby was dying inside her. The midwives could do nothing. In desperate pain, Nina did something forbidden. She called to the Forest King, an ancient spirit ruling the Irako forest. He was a trickster, powerful and dangerous. But she had no choice. She begged him to save her baby's life. He appeared and made an offer. He'd save the child, but the price would be her body. She'd become his vessel, bound to the forest forever. In her agony, she agreed. Adana was born healthy and breathing. But Nina's body was taken that night. "I thought I was clever," Nina said, tears glowing on her ghostly face. "I thought I could trick him, break free. But I was wrong. And now he sent his servant, Mama Blessing, to finish what I started." Nina explained the terrible truth about the Forest King. He wasn't like other spirits. He didn't feed on offerings or prayers. He consumed spiritual connection itself, memories, dreams, bonds between living and dead. For centuries, Wamana had been protected. The traditions were strong, their connection to ancestors unbreakable. These created a spiritual wall he couldn't cross. But Nina's bargain 17 years ago gave him a crack in that wall. A foothold. He waited patiently. Then 3 years ago, he sent Mom a blessing. She's not human. She's his creation, made from forest magic and stolen memories. Her purpose is severing every spiritual connection in the village. Once that's complete, the Forest King will be free to enter Amana and devour every soul. How do we stop him? Adana whispered. Nina stood and began pacing, her glowing form moving between trees. There's only one way. But it requires you to do what I couldn't. She explained his weakness. The Forest King gained power through fear, desperation, and greed. He thrived on selfish bargains. But there was one thing he couldn't take by force, what was freely given from pure, selfless love. My bargain was tainted. I acted from desperation and fear. I wanted to save you, yes, but also to save myself from loss. That selfish thread gave him power over me. To break his hold and save the village, Adana would have to enter the heart of the great Irako tree, face the Forest King directly, and offer herself willingly, not as trade or bargain, but as pure sacrifice made from love alone. If your heart is pure, if there's no fear or selfishness, he can't consume you. Your willing sacrifice will break his power and free both the village and me. Adana looked at her mother's ghostly face. I'll do it. Nina gripped her shoulders. Listen carefully. He'll test you. He'll wear faces of everyone you love. He'll offer you everything you desire. If you waver even a moment, if doubt or fear enters your heart, he'll devour you completely. Nina led her daughter through dark forest to the hidden shrine she once served, a small clearing with ancient stone markers arranged in a circle. In the center stood an altar covered in vines and moss. Carved into the stones were images of the Forest King in his true form, massive, shaped like a man but made of twisted roots and shadows. Great antlers grew from his head, each point carved from human bones. His eyes were empty holes that somehow still stared. Nina taught Adana the cleansing ritual. Adana stripped and covered her body with sacred white clay from the shrine. She spoke old words, calling on ancestors for strength. The ritual had to be completed before dawn. As Adana prepared, Nina's form began flickering, fading. He knows you're coming, Nina whispered, her voice growing distant. Mama Blessing will try to stop you. And there's something else about your birth. Something important. Her form vanished before she could finish. Adana stood alone, covered in white clay, as dawn's first hint touched the sky. She had to move quickly. She ran through the forest toward the great Irako tree at its center. Dawn light filtered through branches. Her bare feet pounded earth. Her heart hammered. She felt the Forest King's presence growing stronger, heavy, oppressive, like weight pressing on her shoulders. Then Mama Blessing appeared on the path ahead. But she was no longer pretending to be human. Her body twisted and stretched, becoming tall and thin like a branch. Her arms lengthened until fingers scraped the ground. Her face split open, revealing the wooden mask, that carved smile too wide, those empty eye holes. You cannot undo what your mother began, she said, voice layered with echoes. You are already his. She moved toward Adana with unnatural speed, elongated limbs carrying her like a spider across its web. But Adana used her sight to look at Mama Blessing truly, seeing beyond physical form to spiritual reality. That's when she saw the threads, hundreds of glowing strings running from Mama Blessing's body back to the great tree, connecting her to the Forest King like a puppet to its master. Adana understood. Mama Blessing wasn't truly alive. She was a hollow shell animated by the Forest King's will. Destroying her wouldn't stop him, but might by time. Adana remembered the protective wards at her mother's shrine. She turned and ran back toward the clearing with Mama Blessing close behind, wooden fingers grasping at her hair. She led her directly onto sacred ground. The moment Mama Blessing's feet touched earth inside the stone circle, the ancient wards blazed with light. Mama Blessing screamed, a sound like wood splitting. Her body crumbled into ashen bark. Within moments, nothing remained but dust. Adana felt hope surge. Maybe she could do this. Then the earth shook. The great Irako tree opened its eyes, all of them. Hundreds of glowing eyes appeared in its bark, all turning to look at her. A deep, rumbling laugh shook the forest. Birds fled. Small animals scattered. The tree's roots burst from the ground, thick as a man's body. They wrapped around her ankles and pulled. She fell hard, clawing at earth as roots dragged her toward the tree. A voice boomed through the forest. "Come, child. Let us finish what your mother started." The roots pulled her into the hollow heart of the tree. She fell through darkness and landed in a vast space that shouldn't exist, far larger than the tree itself. The walls were twisted roots that pulsed like living veins. The air smelled of decay and ancient earth. Then he appeared. The Forest King stood before her in his true form, massive, towering 3 times a man's height. His body was woven from thousands of roots and branches, all moving like serpents. His antlers spread wide, each point made from human bones gleaming white. But worst was his voice. When he spoke, it was many voices, her mother's, her father's, Kayamika's, all speaking at once from his mouth. Your mother was a coward. She bargained for your life but couldn't pay the price. Will you be braver than she was, little Adana? The Forest King didn't attack. Instead, he tested her with visions. The world shifted. Suddenly she stood in her village. Her father stood before her, healthy and whole, eyes clear and bright. Adana, my daughter. Come home. I'm well now. Mama Blessing is gone. Come home where you belong. Her heart ached. She wanted so badly to run to him. But she knew it was a lie. She closed her eyes. You are not real. The vision shattered. Now Kayamika stood there, tears running down her face. Why did you abandon me? I remember everything now. Please come back. Please don't leave me alone. This vision cut deeper. But Adana shook her head. You are not real. The final vision appeared. Her mother, not as a ghost but whole and alive, beautiful, smiling with warm eyes. I can take your place, daughter. Just surrender to the Forest King, and he'll release me. I'll live again. We can be a family. Isn't that what you've always wanted? Adana almost broke. Her hand reached toward her mother. But then she remembered her mother's final words. There's something else about your birth. Something the Forest King didn't want her to know. She stepped back. Tell me the truth. Tell me what my mother couldn't finish saying. Tell me the full truth about my birth. The Forest King's laughter filled the space. The visions dissolved. You want the truth? Let me show you what your mother was too ashamed to confess. He touched her forehead with one wooden finger. Knowledge poured into her mind like poison. She saw the truth. Her mother's real daughter had died during childbirth. The baby hadn't survived. Nina, mad with grief, begged the Forest King to bring her baby back. But he couldn't resurrect the dead. Instead, he offered to create a new child, formed from his magic and Nina's blood. He made Adana, not from human birth, but from spiritual bargain. You are not fully human, Adana. You're half-spirit, born from my power. You are the living anchor connecting me to the mortal world. You are the bargain itself. The only way to sever my connection is for you to cease existing. Adana knelt as truth crushed her. Her existence was the door through which he'd enter and consume her village. But then she understood something he didn't. Her mother said he couldn't take what was freely given from pure love. She stood slowly. I will not end my existence. Instead, I offer you a different bargain. One you cannot refuse. She used her sight and her hybrid nature. She reached into the spiritual threads connecting her to the Forest King. With all her strength, she began binding herself to the great Irako tree, weaving their essences together. He roared in fury. You will exist. But you'll be trapped, bound within me, unable to move freely, unable to consume souls. Every day, I'll resist you. This is my choice, made freely from love. Light and roots spiraled around them. Her mother's spirit appeared one final time. My brave daughter. Then she faded into peace. Adana woke at the tree's base as sun rose. The forest was silent now with contained tension. She could feel the forest king inside her like a caged beast, whispering constantly, testing her will. But he was contained. Bound. Imprisoned. She walked back to her village. Mama Blessing's magic had faded. Children dreamed again. Memories returned. Her father ran to her, eyes clear, remembering everything. The elders fell to their knees, begging forgiveness. Chief Okonkwo offered her the position her mother once held, priestess and protector. She accepted, though she made them understand the truth. Inside me lives ancient hunger. Every moment, I must resist him. If I ever weaken, if I die without finding another solution, he'll be free again. Years passed. Adana served her village, teaching about the dangers of desperate bargains. But every day was a battle. The forest king whispered, tempting her, trying to erode her will. She never married, never had children. How could she risk passing this curse on? She grew older, watching friends have families, their children have children. She became like a grandmother to the whole village, respected but always apart, carrying that secret burden no one else could share. Late at night, she'd stand at the forest's edge. I know you're waiting. But I won't give you what you want. And in her mind, she hears reply, we shall see, little anchor. I have time. All the time in the world. If only they knew, she'd think, watching people go about their lives. That I carry darkness inside me so they can live in light. Some bargains can never be undone, only transformed. And sometimes, the greatest courage is the daily choice to carry an impossible weight so others may live free. End of tale. The story you have just heard is a beautiful African tale I heard long ago. I'm telling you to wake your minds to the power of sacrifice, the danger of desperate bargains, and the strength that lives in those who carry burdens for others. If you were Adana, would you have made the same choice? Would you become a living prison to save your village, knowing you must fight darkness inside yourself every single day? Or would you have chosen differently? I want to know your opinion because every story is like a candle that can light the path for someone else. What does this tale teach you about the bargains we make, the prices we pay, and the courage it takes to transform curses into protection? God bless you, and may wisdom guide your choices. Meanwhile, on the final screen, I am leaving you with one of the channel's most beloved folktales. I am sure it will surprise you. Thank you for staying with me until this moment.